It's overwhelming, but it's also our jobs.
Our job is only going to get harder.
It's worrisome.
This is something that's unprecedented.
Now is not the time to be a cowboy. No one has anything to prove. We're all in this together.
Welcome to Reporting from the Frontlines of a Pandemic. I'm Elizabeth Perkin, and I'm here with Diana Pinzon, a Chronicle field reporter at WCVB Channel 5 in Boston. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Of course.
So our first question is, how have you adjusted the way you work during this pandemic?
So Chronicle is an unusual news program in the news business. So we, as producers, have always been able to work from home during certain parts of the stage of our show. So we kind of had that infrastructure in place, which is unusual in the news business. It's not something we typically do. So there still has been an adjustment, but we always had the opportunity to take our laptops home. We were always given laptops that could function. The systems are a little different when you were not working off the network, but we shoot on the cards. We keep the cards on ourselves, and we're able to log and write from home. We always have been. Some of the things that we've had to adapt, however, are the shooting and the editing. That we would always be going out with the videographer, and to edit, we would always come in-house and sit in the booth and edit with our editors, physically being there. I had my last in the booth edit session, I think I looked on like the 17th or the 18th. And after that, we decided, we shouldn't be sitting that close together because the bays are pretty small. You're sitting like less than a foot away from each other. So now we've moved to remote, where I'm doing it from home, trying to provide as much guidance and direction just on script and then via email, going back and forth with the editor. But as you might imagine, that takes a much longer amount of time because they're, editing, exporting it into a shared drive that we can look at, and then we're reviewing it, saying I'd make the change here and there. And, that's just a much longer process. And I actually had a show in the can already that I was starting to work on. So I have not been shooting, but I know the other crews have been separating and meeting each other there, not driving to the station at all. Everyone just shows up on their own. And I imagine we're taking the same precautions that you've probably seen some pictures out in the field of some of our colleagues who've just been, physically keeping the distance, using mic stands, in boom mics in some cases, that kind of stuff. So those are some of the changes we've made.
And so then have you guys dealt with covering the news? Are you able to go out and film still? Are people willing to want to continue to be a part of your show? Is it harder?
So I have not been through that stage myself. As I was saying, I had one in the can, which was super unusual. Just the timing was crazy because we shot and we didn't start working on it because we were holding it to get a different piece. So I actually haven't shot since the new phase that we've entered. I know that some of my colleagues are. I think we're getting to the point where I think we did one show that was pandemic related. So I think that they were able to get some angles there working that. And then, Chronicle, we are a very special show. And I mean, yesterday we did a repeat show on burgers, and people were just tweeting about how much just kind of going back to normal life was really refreshing for them. And so that's another thing that we provide. So moving forward, it's going to be interesting to see how the topics that we pick. Do we reflect what's going on here, or are we a reprieve from that for people? And I think, it's an important balance to strike. And I think people do turn to Chronicle for that opportunity to just get a break from the day-to-day. So I'm not sure how I don't know what's going to happen. It's really all still, we're figuring it out as we go.
And then are there any other precautions that your station is taking? I know you said the boom mics and the mic stands. Is there any other ways that they have told you to stay safe? Yeah,
I mean, we got put on a split schedule pretty early on, where we were two very separate crews, A and B crew, and they sterilized, came in, sanitized all the desk areas, and that. Like I said, we've always had the opportunity to be able to work from home. The producers have. So as soon as this started boiling up, we were told as much as possible, stay home, don't come in. So I would say those are some of the precautions, constant sanitization. On the news end, obviously, our anchors have been distancing themselves physically from each other. We've been trying to do that too on set. We had initially done a bunch of tapings before that social distancing mandate kind of became more permanent. So I believe you'll see that reflected in the next round of tapings that we do, which we're doing. We're taping a lot of stuff on Saturdays to sort of do the same thing, like limit everyone coming in every day and just doing it once a week.
That's really smart. So going more towards like now how you work as a producer, how would you say you like start your process of finding a story? Are people recommending them to you? Are you like doing research, and how do you go about all of that?
Well, I haven't quite entered that phase yet. I will, not next week, but the following week, start working on news stories. It's a combination. I would say in general, I would say the process, is certainly going to be hampered by what's going on right now. But part of, being good at our jobs is being really connected to the community, being immersed in social media, keeping an eye on what's going on with things, just sort of taking the temperature of the community and seeing what they're responding to, and the things that are becoming prevalent in their lives at this time. This is such an exceptional time in our lives. I mean, I keep saying, I think this is a once in a lifetime moment, and I hope it is because it's pretty crazy. So, it comes from all of the things you mentioned. People will send me stuff. I will notice people talking about stuff. Certain things, it just themes through like the different threads of groups of people I know, friends from college, family, and people in other countries. What are they all doing? What are they thinking about that's similar, that unites us? And one of the unique things with Chronicle is you come up with a theme kind of, and you sort of try to see what you can put together to complete the show. So, sometimes it's stuff that you wouldn't expect, and you get great ideas from people. You can solicit them. One of my colleagues just posted on Instagram stories. She's looking for stuff that she can do that she would be able to shoot either remotely via Skype or Zoom, something of that nature where she can do it, still stay safe. So she's, looking for ideas from other people in the field.
That must be like hard though, thinking of and getting creative with how you're filming, especially such like video heavy shows.
Right.
And so what would you say like is like not only just now during this time period, but like throughout your career, like what like inspires you and keeps you like motivated to want to produce these really like fun and interactive shows?
I think it's what I mentioned. People I really think are turning to Chronicle right now for reprieve from this situation. I think we're inundated with it all day long. We've got newsers from the city, newsers from the state, newsers from the president every day. We're glued to our televisions in some cases. People of my age and older are watching on TV, trying to get the latest updates. And, at a certain point, you're like, do I cut myself off from this? Because it's just so much. And I think Chronicle really helps people just take a break, let their mind wander, let their mind sort of regroup and reset and kind of program itself to be like, we will get over this. We'll get over it. We'll get past this. And eventually this is the normal life I'm going to return to, and it's going to be appreciated a whole heck of a lot more. So, that's my motivation, to try to get, people's mind off of this for a little while and give them something quality and interesting and thought-provoking to watch.
That's really good. Now, would you say that do you guys think you'll be running reruns of any of your episodes if you're not able to film? Or
we have been, and we are. I'm not sure when we're going. We have some new shows that are ready to go, but I'm not sure when we're going to do that. Everything is changing every day. Right now, we're working on getting our editors set up so they can work from home, so that we will be completely remote. So that is something that they're working on now. And I think we're going to do another round of tapings this weekend, but it's actually kind of weird too, because, normally I would actually probably know the answers to these questions better, but I'm not in the office, and, stuff literally changes every day. We're working up, this is a new plan, and we get an email and this is how it's changed. And, we went from A team to B team, and now we've switched to everyone that can stay home to not come into the office. So it's a very fluid situation. And I'm not sure. So I think that hopefully, we will start mixing in some of the newer content for people to enjoy, hopefully soon.
What would you say is your favorite episode that you've produced so far?
Oh, it's hard to pick. It's like picking a kid if I had kids. I don't know. I had a penchant for my leading lady story. I really wanted to do a story on women who were sort of trailblazing, were making the mark in their industry and really forging ahead. And we ended up doing the first iteration of it when they were doing the women's convention down at the Seaport. And I really loved that. I loved giving women a voice and kind of just, pushing that forward and just like, and showing, our audience different ways and just subtle ways that people were, I had Veronica Robles, who is the head of an all-female mariachi band. And then, we had Lauren Friel, who owns a feminist wine bar in Somerville. So it was like very much different ends of the spectrum and different ways, that people might think of leading through culture, through art, and also through running a business and what that means. And, not just being a woman and running business, but also using that platform to try to enact change, which Lauren was doing through multiple fundraisers, for Planned Parenthood and other women's groups, a shelter that had a personal connection for her. So I think kind of those stories where it makes people think a little and, maybe it's not a topic that they would typically see. I like to try to mix it up a little, kind of. And who doesn't like a good female empowerment story? I do.
I do too. That's amazing. And so, having been in the industry for a little bit of time now, what is your advice to anyone wanting to go into broadcast journalism?
Oh, that is a good question. When I started, I graduated from Emerson in 2004. So that's almost 16 years now in the business. It was a totally different business than what it is now. 2008 was like a big year for journalism, changing big time. And at that point I worked in Providence. The market initially started out in the 40s. It's now down in the 50s. Population went down so much there because of the economy, the recession, all that stuff. And then we started going to one-man bands and VJs in higher markets, which is something we hadn't seen prior to that. And really just changing everything to sort of adapt to the new digital phase that we were entering. And I mean, just the difference between then and now is so incredibly stark. I would say, so be somebody that's good at change, be the person that embraces change and uses it to come up with new and better ways to do your job. As far as pursuing the journalism aspect of it, having an insatiable curiosity, I feel like is something I will never lose. And I think that's something that can guide you through, this career you'll never lose. If you're curious, if you want to know more about everything or anything, it's definitely something you should get into. And just, be patient and be good at bargain shopping and coupons. Yeah, it's not a job you're going to get into for the luxury accommodations, but I mean, it's a passion project. It's I've never given up on it in 16 years. And it's such a strange thing too, just to be in this. Now I was just talking to a former colleague this morning, and I'm just like, this is the first time where it's been, some sort of event that's actually affected so much how we work, and it's affected us where we're at risk because of what we do. Whereas hurricanes, snowstorms, criminal trials that we've covered, we've never had to adapt how we work as much as we have here. We don't usually change that much. So this is just something that is unprecedented. I'm still wrapping my head around it. It's really crazy. Just the fact that I've been home for so long, not talking to colleagues, not interacting with people. That's part of what I love about my job, is getting out, meeting new people, getting to see parts of Boston and New England that I've never seen before. And, not having that right now has been challenging, but we're going to get back to it soon. So I'm just trying to stay laser focused on the future.
That's amazing. It's such good advice to hear and to like see how you've been so creative and just open to adapting and changing. And I definitely think now during this pandemic is like when the most change has probably occurred in journalism so far.
In my time, for sure. Absolutely.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell us about yourself or how you're working during this time period?
I've been playing around with different strategies, trying to make sure that I get up and change out of pajamas and put on a different pair of leggings. And today was the first day I put on like clothes in quite a while. So I was like, this is good. And just trying to create an atmosphere here in my apartment that felt like it was, constructive, that was going to like give me the motivation I needed. Because I mean, this is a place that usually I come to relax and unplug from work. And so making that switch and not having that ability to change a location and kind of feel different, just, your brain needs a shut off. A lot of advice, good advice that I've gotten too, I've seen on some good, like the RTDNA Instagram, kind of like making a zone, shutting down your work laptop when you're done, trying to do that kind of stuff. I think that's really important. I don't think we think about it as being as significant as it is, though, because it's like we can't just constantly be doing this, especially for my friends and colleagues that are in the field covering this pandemic, because I feel like I'm not quite covering the pandemic right now. I'm working on a different show that is not pandemic related. My work flow has changed because of it, but I'm not working on content about it. Personally, I'm consuming it because I'm also someone who's at risk, but for them, that's especially important. When we're in this like constant stream of news coverage, it is really important to take mental health breaks. That can't be overstated. So, just to anyone working in the community, make sure you're doing your jobs, but also taking good care of yourself and, checking in with family and doing as many video chats as possible, even though it might take your mom or parents a little extra time to figure out that stuff. It's worth having the patience and just keeping those human connections alive, because, as much as this is our moment and the media could not be any more important than it is right now to get this message out to people, we're humans too, and we have to take care of ourselves.
That is very true. Well, thank you, Diana, for taking the time to talk to me, and thank you for the work you're doing to keep us informed and safe. And thank you to all of you for watching this episode of Reporting from the Front Lines of Pandemic. I've been talking with Diana Pinzon, a Chronicle field reporter at WCVB Channel 5 in Boston. I'm Elizabeth Perkin.